side. No, that matters.
You're not going to fire me at the end? See how this goes. Either was a catch. So, what's new?
Can I start with a couple of housekeeping matters?
Sure.
Okay. One piece of shameless promotion. On your tables, our friends at Staff Max, you may forget to take this with you, but it's a very cool calendar. Peel off both teams, be ashamed if you got left behind. You're welcome. Number two, there's a couple of people who come up to me and express their regret that they have to leave. And that's, so I just want to make sure everybody else knows that's okay. It's lunchtime and people are busy, so I won't be the least bit offended. In fact, I can't even see it because the lights are bad. If people feel like we're droning on too long or they gotta go, that's cool.
So what's new?
So, you know, it occurred to me earlier this week when I accepted the invitation to come and talk today, many months ago, about the business of hockey, that might be harder to do than I imagined when I first accepted the invitation. Lots going on, and but I am pleased to report, as probably everybody in the room already knows now, and maybe found out before I did, but we just did come to terms with Patrick Klein this morning.
As the trusted reporter, I saw you get up at 12:22 and take a phone call, so I was kind of curious whether something happened or not, but obviously it did. We're going to get to that in a second, but we're going to get around to some other things first here. The emotional side of what's been happening, it's not easy, it's difficult. You're dealing with agents, you're dealing with young players who are trying to maximize their dollar value. Take us through that part first, the emotional level and the roller coaster that might be there.
Well, I don't know that it's been, quite as up and down as people might think. That these days were coming for us. It's not as though in this business that that you're forecasting out 1 year at a time. We've been on a pretty deliberate path of trying to draft and develop some good hockey players. We might have got a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of the quality of drafting that Kevin and his team did. But you can see this day coming. We've been talking about the same complicating factors this summer that we were talking about last summer, and when we were re-signing Blake, for example, and when we asked Josh Morrissey to take a bridge last year, it was because of the uncertainty of what we were facing. So it's not as though this came upon us all of a sudden and we're like, oh my God, how are we going to manage this? It's been pretty deliberately managed, and it's in really good hands, in my view, with Kevin and Larry. And so, there are maybe little spikes along the way because you feel like you're doing the best you can to get a player to commit. And sometimes it's not enough, but I learned a long time ago, if you take that stuff personally, you'd be frustrated a lot. And these kids are doing the best they can for themselves and their families, and they're operating within a system that we all agree to. So I think it's very businesslike and has been, and it hasn't been that emotional, to be honest with you.
2-year deal, AAV, I think 6.75. What finally got the deal done? I'm not sure how much you can tell us on that. What has gone through the last couple of days maybe, and what got it to this point today?
Well, I think what's important for people to understand is, and maybe most people do know this, but we're not operating in isolation or in a vacuum with any player. There was a whole cohort of players this year. It was kind of unique that there were so many skilled young players that came out of their entry-level agreements, and so we were really, I don't want to say at the mercy of the process, but we were to a certain extent, having to wait and see how other teams responded to their players, et cetera. And that's very carefully organized, by the Players Association and their agents, and that's their right to do that. So, our deal reflects what we think is the best for us. We think Patrick's got enormous potential. Of that whole group, nobody scored more goals, in the past 3 years. He's got enormous potential. And I think, you know, what you do in this business is you try and inform yourself from other arrangements that may have occurred in the past. I think one that was really relevant for us was the deal that Tampa did with Kucherov, where the player was, you know, showing great promise, but, you know, wanted to bet on himself, and we thought that worked for us as well. So we like the shorter term. It gives us 2 years of restriction at the conclusion of it, which is far better than one, and especially the way deals are getting structured now. So I think it's truly, I don't like throwing the term win-win around. It's used far too gratuitously, but I think both parties feel like this is a really good arrangement for both sides.
So that brings us to Kyle Connor. Where does that stand?
You know, it's ongoing. It's cordial and it's professional, and I think Kyle knows how much value we place in him as a player and as a young man, and I know his agent feels that way. Again, just trying to find the right sweet spot, you know, in terms of term and average value, and I'm confident we'll get that one done as well.
How is the term determined? What will make you guys feel you want these many years with Kyle Connor versus him saying we want these many years?
Well, it doesn't necessarily it's not necessarily a reflection on that individual player as much as it could be, for example, where that term might expire relative to other deals expiring in our system. Like you wouldn't want to hold guys, a whole bunch of your top end and your top 6 forwards co-terminating in the same year. So it's a combination of that player's value and that value to our team within the context of a multi-year plan.
Are you hopeful that Kyle Connor will be here for the start of the season?
Yeah, I am. I'm very hopeful.
Dustin Byfuglien, another question that's out there with a lot of people. What can you tell us about him?
Are these going to get easier? Like I said, you know, it sounded like a good idea talking about the business of hockey. How hard could that be in the middle of July? And then
if there's any broadcast people here looking for work, I might be glad to talk to you about.
So we didn't see that.
Yeah, I might need your help.
We didn't see that one coming at all. I didn't even, you know, I saw Dustin when he arrived, and he seemed to be in great spirits as he usually is, and you know, I don't know what to say about it other than I think what's already been said. He's contemplating his future in playing the game of hockey. It's you know, it certainly has nothing to do with playing hockey here. He's really grown to love the city, and I know his family has, and his kids are in school, and so I don't know how to, you know, put this any other way or sugarcoat it. We were surprised to learn that he'd come to this point in his career that he wasn't sure. He's still not sure. We're hopeful that you know, with some time and that he'll find the passion for it here soon, because he's a very big part of our organization.
NHL has a salary cap. How difficult was the off season? You saw players leave. Some I'm sure you wanted to try and retain. The dollars simply weren't there to be able to fit into the salary cap. How difficult was that as an organization?
You know, it was really difficult. Not just, you know, from a strategic perspective of seeing really good quality young men move on, but from a personal one, you know, you're around our team enough to know that you know, relationships develop, and you know, there's a deep sense of caring that ultimately connects you to young men that are, you know, representing us. And so it's, I don't think that's something I'll ever get used to. I certainly, you know, don't begrudge their decisions, and they seem to understand our position. It goes back to that point I made a few minutes ago, where, you know, we've been anticipating this for quite some time. We knew there, with the uncertainty of what these young kids were going to cost, there was going to unfortunately be some casualties. We tried to keep it to a minimum, but I don't think I'll ever get used to seeing, you know, a young man like Ben Sherrod or Tanny or Tyler move on. They're great young men, and they gave everything they had to our organization, and they were a big part of it.
we can't overlook that fact. That is a credit to your staff, the draft and develop program that you guys wanted to follow. You have followed it very, very well. The drafting has been excellent.
Yeah, it really has. I mean, I think that, and it's not just been those high-profile first round picks that are a big part of our team or soon will be. And I even point to the young man, that we got relatively late in the first round this year. It looks like he's going to be a great player. But it's those deeper picks. It's the third and fourth and fifth rounders like Adam Lowry and Andrew Kopp and Connor Hellebuck and those key guys that our group has been able to find in those deeper rounds in the draft that are the core of our team right now.
Mark, there was talk last year at the end of the year, the talk was there throughout the course of the year, managing expectations. And they were high last year, there's no question about that. And maybe it became a bit of a challenge inside the room. Just what was learned from that and your thoughts on that topic?
Well, I think for sure we're more comfortable the way people think about us right now. I think some people have already, decided that we're not likely to get a challenge this year. I can tell you our group sure doesn't feel that way. It was new territory for us for sure, and we knew because everybody who's been is a part of our group has been at it for a long time. We knew the expectations were going to be high coming off the year prior, and we did our best to manage it externally and internally. But it was tough. I think we were the youngest team in the league last year at the end of the season. We were the youngest team in the playoffs. Depending on what Buff decides to do, we most likely will start this year as the youngest team in the league. And like anything in life, maturity can be a painful and slow process. But I think we've added some very mature guys to the mix this year, and so I think people are comfortable now with where we're at. It's been a great training camp and it's hard to describe, but a really very positive move right now.
2011, it was mentioned, is when the announcement came. You guys had purchased the Atlanta Thrashers. Does that seem like a long time ago, a short time ago?
It does seem like a long time ago now. In some respects, it seems like it's gone by like that. And as does the whole, gosh, I guess we're going into year 24. Like sometimes that seems like it went very quickly. But looking back when you pause, it seems like we've been at it for quite a while. The past 8 seasons have been pretty steep learning curve for me personally. But it's been, it's been for the most part, it's been a wonderful experience. I honestly, Dennis, there's some days I still think somebody's going to knock on my door and say, okay, the joke's over. Some real guy's going to come in here, and it was such a long time getting here that it's still amazing to me that where the city's back in the National Hockey League. I'll never ever lose sight of that importance and to our community, and it's been a real honor to be sort of a part of the ride.
Has anything surprised you?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's lots of things. I think the thing that maybe shouldn't have surprised me, but that sticks with me more than anything is the extent of the passion. I shouldn't have been surprised by that. We were big fans of the 1.0 era, and so I knew what that passion was all about. But I don't know that I could have imagined that it would be as palpable as it is, just day in and day out. And it's starting to reflect in some really neat ways. I was telling some of the guys at lunch, like we are the number 2 draw in the league last year in visiting buildings. We're the most watched Canadian team out, other than French language, Montreal's regional and the Leafs. Like we outperform just in pure viewership, and that's nothing we've done. That's just the DNA of this community. That's so passionate about the product, and we feel so responsible for that. So I think maybe that surprised me is the day in, day out sort of responsibility that we all feel being a source of pride for the community and not wanting to let people down.
I can add to that because people at NBC last year during the playoffs and the previous year in the playoffs talked about the numbers in the US, how good those viewership numbers were for the Winnipeg Jets games, and I think that's a credit to you, the hockey club, and everything else. Let's get to the business side of the National Hockey League. The owners on September 1st had the chance to open the CBA. The players had September 15th to open up the CBA. Neither side chose to do that. Were you surprised? And maybe some of the reasons as to why that wasn't open?
No, I mean, there was never any indication that the owners were going to open it up. There was some concern, I think, in that 2-week period that the players were going to open it. I'm glad they didn't. I think it's generally working well for the league. But for that collective agreement that was created in 2004, which is really still the basis of the one we operate under, we wouldn't be sitting here right now. It allows for a market like Winnipeg to not only just be a part of the league, but to thrive and compete. There's been ways, unfortunately, that people have been able to punch some holes in the way the agreement was intended to operate. We'll get a chance, I think, to correct those things on the next go round, but they're not serious enough to warrant full-blown collective bargaining right now. I think both sides would like to find some ways to improve it, but we got 3 years to do that now.
We'll touch on one topic that might come up, and in fact I expect it to, that's international hockey, the Olympics.
Yeah.
Where do things stand from that standpoint?
Unchanged as far as I know. I think that, I would hope that we would return to the Olympics. I've been maybe in a bit of a minority position in that regard at the league. I think that, people keep talking about the John Tavares sort of worst case scenario when he got hurt that year, and it really took the Islanders in a very different path that they were on, and that's a legitimate concern. But there's just something about allowing these young men to play for their country in an Olympic setting that I think needs to be very seriously considered.
Where is the National Hockey League at right now, big picture?
Well, I think it's stronger than it's ever been. I think that it's taken 15 years of the structure of the current collective system to really take hold and to create the kind of collective, the type of balance that exists, the competitive balance that exists. I usually say parity, but Gary gets really upset with me when I use that, so I'm supposed to say competitive balance. But that's really important, that fans, that their team has a chance to win every year is so essential in this business, and it's given us that. And I think because of that, the markets have strengthened. There's still some markets in the league that I'm sure would acknowledge they'd like to be doing better, but the quality of ownership, even in the 8 years that I've been involved, has, I think, improved and strengthened. Revenues are continuing to climb at rates, above the, sort of cost of living index. And we've worked really hard here to keep the game as affordable as we can. I can tell you of the 7 teams, we're the 6th lowest average ticket price, and we work hard to keep it there. It's still very much a gate revenue business, but the league has found all kinds of unique ways to improve revenues. These outdoor games, et cetera, have been a source of that. Television and radio continues to grow. It's still the best live content that's out there. So I think the league's well positioned, and I think we're really well positioned within the league to do well. We're not, because we're small doesn't mean we can't, we don't have to punch above our weight, if you know what I mean. We're on equal footing, and then we can swing from sort of equal footing.
Vegas, I think, was 500 million. Seattle jumped up to 750 million. I'm not sure there's anything on the expansion front. Revenue streams, you mentioned, and what does lie ahead? There's a new US television deal coming up. What other revenue streams are they looking at?
Well, US television would be the number one source. I think they continue to look at growing the game internationally. You know, you're going to continue to see games played like we played in Helsinki. This year they're playing in Stockholm. They're going to continue to generate interest, and those do have lasting impacts. The amount of fan base we have in Finland and Sweden is significant. Going to continue to try and push into China, and the game seems to have interest there. Beyond that, I really doubt there'll be any more expansion. I think 32 is plenty. I can get in real trouble for saying what I'm about to say. I'm going to say it anyways, and that is, I don't know that we need that many teams, to be honest with you, I think. But that's the direction we're obviously in, and I think Seattle will be a great addition to the league.
Switch topics to the Manitoba Moose. You brought them here to Winnipeg, 20th anniversary of the Moose, special year for them. How has that experiment gone, both before the National Hockey League team arrived and certainly since the Winnipeg Jets returned here?
Well, they're such a integral part of what we do. It was such a great platform to learn from. You know, the 15 years we spent doing that. It was obviously a more difficult sell, right? And so we had to work very hard at it, and the people who work for us today that did all of that work that got us here are still with us. So there were great lessons learned, not just in terms of developing hockey players, but in developing our entire organization. So it's really vital to what we do. And I mean, you would know, you could rattle off the names more quickly than I could about the kids that are playing for us now that came up through that process and will again this year. You know, it's it's working great. I mean, having those kids here as a part of our culture from day one. They come in at the same time. Many of them go through training camp at the same time. Many of them are living together, right? They may be on different teams, but they're the same age, and for us to be able to observe their play on a regular basis, I think has an impact. It allows our coaches to communicate more consistently, and I think we're just starting to see the benefits of having that team back here. I think it's working great.
Is the idea of the Thunder base still out there, or are you completely satisfied with how it's transpired?
Yeah, no, we're here. We've made the investment in our practice facility, which was significant in order to really properly host the team, and they base out of there, and so both teams are together in that same complex. It works for us here. Thunder Bay would have been great, but that was predicated on a new building getting built there. They don't have an arena that would accommodate us, so that's long in the rearview mirror.
One more hockey question: the effect of having a Western Hockey League team here with the Kootenay Ice moving to Winnipeg.
You know, it's Craig Heisinger was the first guy to say it's great for us because obviously a lot of young kids have come out of the Western Hockey League that are playing for us right now, not the least of which would be Josh Morrissey, right? And so to be able to watch those kids playing in Winnipeg is great, less wear and tear on our scouting staff and on Zinger, and less trips to Brandon and so forth. It's in really good hands. The operators of it are, I believe are really committed to our city and to the game, so I think it's great. I think people thought it would be not complimentary to what we do, but I think it's very complimentary to what we do.
We could talk hockey all afternoon here. We need to get into the Community Wellness and Public Safety Alliance that you're very much involved in, but before we get to that, a thought on True North Square, where it stands now and what it's done for downtown Winnipeg.
Well, it's quickly becoming occupied, and I can't begin to thank people like Keith enough for, they were the first to take a flyer on us when we were trying to identify high quality tenants. So for TDS to do that, I think that really created a lot of momentum for the project for us. There have been some great, Scotia's come along, MNP just opened this week. There's some other really exciting tendencies. But again, I think it would be unfair to, for me to, or for you to suggest that that was all my doing. That was another partnership, right? And we couldn't have managed that all on our own. So many people have helped this process along the way, from the original team to the arena to True North Square. And many of them are here. I think I saw Harley Richardson, who, was absolutely vital to our efforts in a number of steps along the way. I think he's here. There's others, and I'm gonna miss names that are here, but I think Garrett Johansson's here. There's a lot of people who very quietly have been a part of everything we've done, and it makes me uncomfortable, to be honest with you, to listen to Keith and those very, very, very kind words like, you gotta pull this all off by myself. I really haven't. So that True North Square would be the credit of Hartley and his crew coming in and helping us getting that done. And everything we've done to date has been sort of a collective effort of a lot of great Winnipeggers who are just trying to help make the city better.
Okay, the Community Wellness and Public Safety Alliance transformed approach to the treatment of chronic and acute substance abuse, a business plan that's 141 pages. Tell us about this.
So this was, this could take a long time. I'll try and do this, as quickly as I can, but I guess I just became more and more aware of the struggle as you work downtown and you're here every day, and it just seemed to be getting progressively more challenging. And then, there's always something that happens, an incident or something that happens that causes you to pause, and there were several that just became more and more troubling. So, not knowing anything about the subject at all, just sort of, I guess, having a concern for the direction I saw, the issue of just public intoxication going about 4.5 years ago, pulled together some people to see if there were some solutions, or if I could gain a better understanding of why the situation was as it was. And I have to tell you, it's been one of the most incredible processes I've ever been involved in. And just helping to organize people who really understood the subject. And there were a lot of them, but some of them are here. And for example, Dave Thorne, who at the time was the deputy chief of police, really shed a great deal of light on the subject for me. There were people from Winnipeg Regional Health Authority and Health Science Center, and Winnipeg Fire and Paramedic, and the police service, and addictions, and it was just staggering to see the level of concern and knowledge. And my role in it, frankly, was just trying to organize all of that thinking and that frontline experience around developing a new plan. So we did that. The police, to their credit, went out on their own dime, jumped in a van and drove out to Calgary and Edmonton and Saskatoon and looked at sort of we did a best practices analysis, and we found out pretty quickly that we were behind, and that led to the development of a business plan that we worked very long and hard on over a couple of years, and we presented it to government, and I'm pleased that it's informing some policy now. But there's just so much more to do, Dennis. I mean, in the midst of all of that, when we're really just dealing with the issue of public intoxication, this meth crisis took over our city, and it's honestly, it's one of the most heartbreaking set of circumstances I've ever personally experienced. I've had the, I don't want to say the pleasure of, but I've had the benefit of doing ride-arounds with the police and seeing how they're trying to cope with all of this. And so it's heartbreaking and disheartening on the one hand, but on the other hand, when you step back and you see the possibilities that exist in it to do something far better than what we're doing right now, with a desire to create a much more humane and effective way of dealing with these very serious issues. I feel confident we'll get there. There are so many wonderful people doing really incredible work from all of those 100+ United Way agencies and beyond. We got to find a way to build. We need to basically is that we've got to shift our perspective from one of law enforcement and justice to one of healthcare on this matter. And if we can do that and look at this through a health lens and create the proper facility that has the full continuum of services to help the people that need it most in our community, then we can make some headway. And I don't think there's any reason why we can't.
If you had to prioritize what's next, what would that be?
Well, there's a real acuity to what we're dealing with right now. There's just, frankly, there's not enough resources just to deal with what we're dealing with right now. There are not, so I don't want to suggest that we've got to throw more police at this, but we do. We need a greater presence because there's just a real safety issue to this as well. So that might sound counterintuitive when I say we need to look at this through a health lens and then say we need more police. What I mean to say is we have to look at it through a health lens, but there's also a safety issue that we need to tackle soon. While at the same time on a parallel set of tracks, finding a way to link together many of the people that are already doing the work, but to link those services together in a much more logical way. And ideally if you went to Calgary or Edmonton, you would see those services in one location. Because not everybody who's struggling has got the same underlying reason or has there's no one size fits all set of services that is required. You need a real spectrum of those services for people to be able to access. We got to do a much better job of that. And again, this is not to be at all critical for all the people out there that are doing their best right now. I just think we can do better. It's not, we're not laying at the feet of government either. This is something that the private sector has a huge stake in. And you can look at it two ways. I mean, I think I learned a long time ago, your city's reputation is often determined by that 10-block radius of the center. So you can look at it in a practical way if you wanted to. But more important, I think you got to look at this from a human perspective. Like it's not acceptable at that level. And if we keep our focus on that and pull people together like this city has always been able to do, like none other, I believe this will be something we'll be talking about in a couple of years as well on our way to making significant progress.
How can people in this room help?
I don't know if I know don't look the other way for starters. I just don't think we can do that anymore. And I think, to the extent that you have any influence on our public policy makers, I think, and if it's okay to say so. I'm not trying to rally the city around this. I think there's enough to work with, but I mean any kind of support. I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer. But
is this another situation? You talked about one location being critical to this, where that location was identified and something started there. Would you be able to kind of see the end of the start of this project?
Yes, I think so. I think that's where, and again, I don't want to suggest that this is going to be the panacea for some very, very serious social issues that we're facing, but it would be a great start. And if done right, could put a real dent in what we're facing. And I would just say, maybe some of you have seen this, but if you haven't, if you don't think that this problem can get worse, there's about an hour-long documentary on the city of Seattle called "Seattle is Dying," and it's breathtaking what's happened in that city, and others have found a way and turned these same kind of issues around. But we can't wish this away. Hope's just not a great strategy, I've learned. It's great to have hope, but ought not be your, I hope we win Stanley Cup. But I'm not going with that as my singular strategy.
In the time we have left, I've asked you a lot of questions. Is there something that you would like to add to this group here today?
I don't think so. I'm glad we're done because I've been, I'm nervous about this one, so I hope it went better than I thought it was going to go at 5:30 this morning. No, I don't think so. I think I'm honored to be a part of this great tradition that the Chambers have been doing and to help kick it off. They played such a vital role in the vibrancy of our city, and I'm honored by the turnout, and I hope that. And I guess I would like to say thank you for all those that have supported us. We really do deeply appreciate not just the financial investment that's been necessary to bring the team back and make it as vibrant as it is and allow us to make the decisions to sign the Patrick Landys and the Kyle Connors and Mark Scheifele's of this world. That's vital, but just the encouragement that we get day to day. I joke sometimes you feel like you live in a city of 800,000 general managers, and I've been tuned up at the Red River Co-op, putting gas in my car. I really have. I got, and my wife can attest to this. I've been shredded at Costco too. If I've got sunglasses on at Costco with my hood up, that's why. But that's been rare. There's been a few of those, but for the most part, the level of encouragement we get is extraordinary, and it really is. Getting photos like I did today from a good friend of mine who's traveling abroad and came upon a guy with a Jets t-shirt on in Spain and getting a photo and sending it to me, it's unbelievable. And so we are only, honestly, I'm not trying to sound patronizing here. Everybody says they got the best fans in the world. It's almost obligatory to say that, but we do, and we know that. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much for supporting everything we've done.
There is a saying, and it's not only the passion that pays us all. And it is that passion that drives not only the city, but it also drives the sporting community in this city. Mark, thank you very much for your candidness, and thank you all for your attendance here this afternoon.
Thanks, Evan.
All right, that was fantastic. Let's keep going. One more round of applause for both